Announcements of the attorney, starting with the department, please.
Leslie Levy, attorney for the department.
Okay, Mr.
Stage
Hiller.
is ready.
Thomas Siller for the mother.
Mr. Capmeyer.
Douglas Capmeyer for Carlos Moreno.
Okay, the court also notes that we have CASA with us today, as well as representatives from Belong. So, Ms. Levy, who would you like to call as a witness?
Ms. Stewart, where is Carlos currently placed?
He's currently placed in Gonzales County with a fictive kin.
How is he doing in that placement?
He's doing very well.
Is he up to date on all his medical and dental?
He is.
And does he have any education or psychiatric needs that the court needs to be aware of?
He does not. He did not qualify for ECI. He's a very, very smart little boy.
Switching gears to talk about the parents. How is Miss Longoria doing on her service plan?
I have had no contact with her since the very beginning of the case. I did receive an email with a new phone number last week. I've called and texted that number 3 times last week and have gotten no reply back.
Can you forward that new number, or have you forwarded it to Mr. Hilly?
I did not, but I will.
And what efforts have you made to track her down and engage her? You mentioned a little bit about the phone.
And actually, that's all we're really doing now until she had her psychological. Just no face-to-face contact with her, but I did try calling, texting, and I know that they have attempted to serve her with all of the known locations we have, with no avail.
And what about Mr. Moreno? Have you had contact with him?
He's currently incarcerated outside of my region, but we have requested a secondary worker to see him, and we're going to follow up with that worker or getting that assigned this week.
Have you made efforts to call the facility and get in touch with him that way?
I did towards the beginning of the case. I know that there was some kind of issue with lockdown and some differences on whether or not that was actually able to talk to him, but I have not made any attempts to call him this month yet.
And do you plan to do that before the end of the month?
Yes, especially if we do not have someone that is actually gone to see him face to face.
So at this time, would you ask that the court find that neither parent is in compliance with their service plan?
Correct.
And are you asking that the court continue the placement for Carlos?
I am.
What is Belong's permanency plan?
Right now it's a fictive kin adoption.
And if you get in touch with the parents, are you going to let them know about that change of permanency plan? That it's no
Absolutely.
longer.
Yes, ma'am.
Is there anything else that the court needs to know about how this case is progressing?
Not at this time.
I'll pass the witness.
Mr. Hiller.
Did mother request anything from you last conversation you had with her?
No, she did not.
Pass the witness.
Mr. Capmeyer.
No questions.
Okay. Ms. Levy, any other witnesses you wish to call today?
No, Your Honor, the state would rest.
Okay. So I'd like to hear from CASA at this point. So, Ms. Reese, you sure to tell the truth, Ms. Reese?
I do.
Okay, thank you. And what would CASA like me to know about Carlos and his family?
Carlos is doing beautifully. He is, when you first go in to see him, he's a little cool, but when he warms up, he is a little ball of fire. He is now in daycare and doing well. He was ready for daycare. There was no doubt about that. He fits in beautifully with the family with which he is placed, and I see no reason to make any changes.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Hilla, anything on behalf of your client today?
No, thank you.
And Mr. Capmeyer?
No, nothing, Your Honor.
Okay. So based upon the testimony of the witness, the court will continue Carlos's current placement upon his placements meeting all his physical and emotional needs, and it's the least restricted placement at this time. Additionally, the court finds that no parent is in compliance with their court order plans of service. Our next hearing in this case will be our second permanency hearing that will be held on April 23rd, 2024 at 9 a.m. Again, April 23rd, 2024 at 9 a.m. Thank everybody for being here today on this cold day. You may be excused at this time. We are live streaming today's proceedings due to the weather conditions. If we can have announcements of the attorneys, and we're going to start with the department, please.
Leslie Levy, attorney for the department.
Okay, Ms. Mahachek.
Jennifer, Jennifer Mahachik, attorney for the mother, Miss Amanda Navarro. Judge, is she on? I don't see her.
I do not see her.
Okay. She may be having trouble because I just spoke to her maybe 20 minutes ago, logging on. So I'll check on that, Judge.
Okay.
Oh,
Ms. Mahachek.
Jennifer, I'm sorry, Judge. I'm going to send Jennifer the new Zoom ID number just in case she's using that, the old ID number. So Jennifer, I'm going to send that to you
Okay.
on chat, okay?
Okay.
Mr. Hill.
I'm still for the father, Carrillo, who is in TTC. I'm not sure whether he was served with the last third amended petition because he's not here, not ready.
Mr. Hill.
Travis Hill, attorney ad litem for the children.
Okay, Ms. Levy, do you know if the father, Mr. Carrillo, has been served in this case?
Your Honor, I do not believe he has.
Okay. The court will grant Mr. Hill is not ready announcement as to the father, in this case, Mr. Carrillo. The court also notes that we have the Department of Family and Protective Services with us today, as well as Belong. And I see one box listed as a witness. So what we're going to do, I'm going to wait and make sure that Ms. Mahachek's client, Ms. Navarro, has the correct Zoom number. And then, so we're going to wait a few minutes and then we'll get started here. Hopefully we'll try to get started in 5-7 minutes. So everyone will be patient. Hopefully we can get Ms. Navarro on and get started. Okay, so it looks like Ms. Navarro has now joined us. So I think we have everybody. So we're going to go ahead and continue with our hearing. Ms. Levy, have you or anyone else in the department had an opportunity to discuss this case with the other attorneys to see if there are any agreements that could be made today?
Your Honor, I know Ms. Quadro sent out an email asking about that. I did not see a reply.
Okay, so Ms. Mahachek, did you have an opportunity to discuss this case with Ms. Codado?
I did not have a chance to discuss it with her, Your Honor. I have talked to my client, Ms. Navarro. She is in agreement to the department being named temporary managing conservator. However, she would like to have, since the boys have been removed from her home, she's been able to see them each week, and she'd like to continue that, except for 1 week where the department couldn't accommodate because of staff. And she'd like to continue seeing them weekly if possible.
And Ms. Mahachek, do you know where her children are currently placed? Is she agreeable to the placement, or do we need to be looking at other potential placements?
Your Honor, at this time, she is in agreement with the current placement. We had also suggested, I think, to one of the caseworker, her brother, but some things have changed for her brother in regards to transportation. And so we're going to, she's good with where they're currently placed, which is in between Gonzalez and
Okay, is that a foster home? Is it
yes,
fictive kin? Who is it?
It's foster Legacy Ranch there, Your Honor.
Okay. And has your client provided a caregiver resource form to the department? So is that where the brother was listed?
I don't know, Your Honor, if Ms. Navarro has done that. The brother lives in Seguin, and the concern was with visitation between mom and the children, and the brother doesn't have a vehicle at this time.
Okay. Okay, so your client is seeking weekly visitation for her children. Is that right, Ms. Mahachek?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Okay, so Mr. Hill, I granted you're not ready announcement. Mr. Hill, you are the children's attorney ad litem. Do you have a position on visitation for your clients with their mother?
Yes, Your Honor. I think that at this time they need to remain in their current placement. I would like to ask Ms. Mahachek a question. Or her client.
I'll tell you what, maybe the best thing to do is to stick all the attorneys in a breakout room and then let y'all talk about the case, see what y'all can come up with, and then we'll come back. And if we have contested issues that we need to have witness testimony on, we'll do it at that time. Okay, so what remains contested at this point?
Yes, Your Honor, the parties are in agreement to temporary managing conservatorship with the Department of both children. The parties are also in agreement to the current placement, but we intend to do home studies on 2 relatives that Ms. Navarro has provided names for. There has been some discussion as to whether those would ultimately be willing to take the children in the best interest of the children, given the change of schooling. However, we want to get those home studies done so that we can, see how the parties feel once we actually know which of either is a viable option. In addition, the mother is asking for 1 hour of weekly visitation. She has been attending those visits, except for one where I believe the department could not find a supervisor, and apparently the children were pretty disappointed about that visit being missed, though it was no fault of the mother's. Belong is asking that rather than weekly visits, the visits be every other week, in part because of the problem finding supervision every week, and we don't want the boys to be disappointed or hold it against the mother, and in part because by policy, Belong typically starts children these age out once a month. So we are kind of trying to split the difference. And that is, I believe, the only contested issue.
Hey, Ms. Mahachek.
That is my understanding as well, Your Honor.
Okay, and Mr. Hill, do you have a position on visitation? These are your clients who are 8 and 13.
I'll leave it to the discretion of the court. I think whatever the court orders, that they're going to be satisfied with. That they were just upset that there was a scheduled visit and it didn't happen, and there was some speculation by the older child about why it didn't happen. But I assured them that it wasn't just some conscious indifference on the mother's part not showing up. But there was a issue about supervision, and I believe that mom has been making all the visits at this point moving forward. So I don't want the court to order some type of visitation that we can't continue and that Belong cannot staff.
Okay. Ms. Mahachek, since this is your client, it sounds like there's multiple home studies. We don't do simultaneous home studies, or I don't typically order simultaneous home studies. So who would we like to study first?
Your Honor, when we met in the breakout room, Mr. Hill had mentioned the 2 uncles that Miss Navarro has, or excuse me, 2 brothers Miss Navarro has, which are the uncles to the children. Mrs. Navarro was okay with the children at their current placement. She had not talked to one of the brothers, hasn't been in contact with them, so she didn't think he'd be as willing. The other brother has a change in circumstance that recently happened to where now she's okay with the placement being at the Legacy Ranch, and that being consistency with school for the kids. And the visitation for her to travel to visit, it's here in Gonzales where the visits are occurring, and the transportation issue for her brother doesn't have transportation at this time. But if we had to select one, I think she would be selecting the brother Santiago for the first one.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Mahachek. Let's see. Okay, Mr. Navarro, I would like to have a home study done so that we can try to determine if there's a family member that can take your children, or I shouldn't say take your children, but have your children live with them temporarily. Yes. Who would you like to have considered first?
I guess Santiago, since he's already in the loop. However, Joshua would probably be a better option because he does have a vehicle. I just don't know if he'll take them because I haven't talked to him about the case.
Okay.
Both of them.
And if you had a preference for where they would go, would that be with Joshua or Santiago?
It would be with Joshua.
Your Honor, just so the court's aware, my clients have also expressed their desire to go with, their preference was to go with Joshua.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hill. Okay, so based upon the agreements of the parties and the request of the attorneys in this case, the court is going to accept the agreement to naming the Department of Family and Protective Services as the temporary managing conservator of the two children the subject to this suit, and that is all. The mother is named as a possessor conservator. The placement of the two boys will be continued in foster care at this time, with a home study being done on Joshua Navarro if he's willing to be considered for placement. If he is not willing to be considered for placement, then the home study will be done on Santiago Navarro for potential placement. So our status hearing in this case is going to be on February 20th, 2024 at 11:30 a.m. Again, February 20th at 11:30 a.m. So, Mr. Navarro, I've got a few more questions for you, and then I think we'll complete our hearing. So, Mr. Navarro, I must warn you in this case that your parental rights are subject to further restriction or even termination unless you're willing and able to provide your children with a safe and appropriate environment. Do you understand that warning?
Yes.
Okay, and then lastly, Mr. Navarro, anyone in your family have any Native American heritage that you're aware of? Anyone in your family that is a member currently of a Native American tribe or eligible for membership into a tribe?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. So the court, based upon Ms. Navarro's testimony, finds that there's no Native American heritage on the maternal side of the family for either of the children subject to this suit. So, Ms. Levy, please include that as a part of your work today. Okay, we'll see everyone back on February 20th at 11:30 a.m. Mr. Mahachek?
And the visitation for the children?
Yes, will be. Thank you. Left that out. I'm going to order at this time that visitation will begin as 3 times per month between Ms. Navarro and her children. Additionally, the child advocates may agree to additional contact and visitation. Okay, any other requested relief from the parties today?
No, Your Honor.
Is that visitation for 1 hour, Your Honor?
Yes, sir. Additionally, obviously, if we can get the children with a family member between now and our next hearing, we can readdress visitation at our next hearing and see if there's something that's more workable for everybody. Okay, thank you everybody for being here today. I'm glad that the parties were able to agree to at least a few things. And we'll see y'all back on February 20th at 11:30. You're excused at that time. Starting with the department, please.
Kenneth Best, attorney for the department.
Okay, Mr. Catmeyer.
Douglas Catmeyer, attorney for Frederick Alcantar.
Okay, Mr. Mahachek.
Jennifer Mahachik, attorney for Miss Samantha Lopez.
And Mr. Hill.
Travis Hill, attorney at law for the children.
Okay, the court does note that both parents, I believe, are present and participating by video. We also have a representative from Belong with us here today. We are set today on the court's docket for a court-ordered services compliance hearing. So, Mr. Best, who's your witness?
Your Honor, I was going to call the representative from Belong.
Okay.
And Your Honor, I do have an agreement with my client. I'm not sure about the mother.
We'll see. You have an agreement as to what, Mr. Catmeyer?
To work services.
That's what we did back in November. November 14th was our last hearing date. And on that date, the parents had agreed to participate in services. So today we're going to check in on the parents and make sure that they are actually doing services and make changes in their life.
Sorry, Judge. I was looking at some old notes, I guess.
That's okay.
Your Honor, I do have that we were going to request to have an extension for this. That might be what he's referencing, although it might be that I'm not normally the attorney on the case, so I might be misunderstanding something that's happening.
Okay, well, let's do one thing at a time. So first, let's hear about the parents' progress.
What is your connection to this case?
I am actually through DePelchin, through the TFF program under Belong, and I am the therapist that was assigned to the case through the TFF program.
Okay.
Hold on, Mr. Best. I think we've got another person that just came into the waiting room. This is probably actually your caseworker.
All right. The name was different, but at the same time, I wasn't gonna. I don't know. It's fairly regular that I have people switch out at the last second for whatever reason.
So Ms. Moultrie, it sounds like you're the therapist, and then I think Miss Ashley Hartwick Smith is the actual caseworker. Is that right?
Supervisor.
Supervisor.
She's the
okay.
supervisor for Belong. I don't see the caseworker here. Her name is Tracy.
Okay. Well, we just lost the supervisor, so it's been one of those kind of days. Okay, so let's see if we can get her. Well, I'll tell you what, since we have Miss Moultrie sworn in, Miss Moultrie, why don't you tell us what your involvement's been in with the case and what interaction
Sure.
you've had with the parents?
Sure. And I have a little bit of information from staffings that I can share on what we had decided as a treatment team to move forward.
Okay, go ahead.
So I was assigned this case, and after being assigned this case, there was some developments that came out to where we have found out that Miss Lopez was not a good candidate for the family therapy portion of the TFF program due to after having an psychological evaluation and the diagnosis that she was given. So since then, I have been working with Mr. Alcantar on learning about Miss Lopez's diagnosis, also working with the two older children on so they can know some different things about mom's diagnosis and helping dad to understand how he can keep the children safe and work with mom to provide a safe home.
Okay. And are you engaged in current therapy with Mr. Alcantar only at this time? What is your role going forward from today?
So we staff this case and it would not be a good fit for BSFT that is under the TFF pilot, but it would be a good fit for the PAT program, which initially I think it was going to be, but somehow it was put under BSFT. So we have agreed to put it under the PAT program.
Okay, so let's cut out the initials. So tell me the whole names of all the programs. So I think you said
Sorry.
PAT, which is probably parents as
Yes.
teachers, and what's the other one?
Yes, sir. That's the only program under the pilot. Yes.
Okay, you said it'd be a better fit for parents as teachers instead of, and what was the other one?
Oh, BSFT, which is brief strategic family therapy, which is what I do.
Okay, sounds good, Ms. Moultrie. Mr. Best, do you have any questions from Ms. Moultrie?
Do you have any other knowledge about how the parents' services are progressing at the moment? So I'm clear on exactly what your role is.
So I can only give a statement of what we talked about in TFF staffings, that the caseworker had stated that the parents have been engaged. Oh, here she comes. She could probably give a better outcome on the rest of the services.
Okay, so let's see if anybody else has any questions for Ms. Moultrie. Mr. Catmeyer, do you have any questions for Ms. Moultrie?
No.
Ms. Mahachek,
I just have a couple.
go ahead.
Ms. Moultrie, I represent Ms. Lopez. My question is, so you haven't given any therapy services to Ms. Lopez, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and you're saying because of what she was diagnosed with, family therapy won't work for them at this time, is that correct?
That is correct. At a clinical standpoint, it would best serve Ms. Lopez to be involved in individual counseling. Yes.
And do you know if an individual counselor has been assigned to her?
I do not.
Okay, thank you. No further questions.
Mr. Hill?
No questions, Your Honor.
Okay. Okay, so let's move to who I believe is the actual caseworker. So that's Ms. Diaz de Leon.
All right. And are you the caseworker assigned to this family?
Yes, sir, I am.
All right. And so let's start off with how is the mother Miss Samantha Lopez, how is she doing with her services at this time?
Miss Samantha Lopez has attempted to complete all the services asked of us for the time being. She did comply with her oral drug screening. She did complete her psychiatric evaluation. She continues to follow the safety plan. So I would say that yes, she is attempting to complete the asked of her.
I'm sorry, I think you just cut out just a little bit there. What was the attempting to what?
To complete all the services that we're asking of her.
Okay. And now the lady who had spoken a second ago, Dusty Moultrie, she had said that she was recommending that the family engage in individual therapy. Is that one of the services that the family is going to be working on going forward?
Yes, sir, it is.
All right. And is there already a therapist that's being assigned to the mother in this case for that?
She is to get a referral with her psychiatric evaluation that was completed to begin individual counseling. Yes, sir.
All right. And so for the you said a psychological had been completed and you're working on getting that out. Were there any recommendations made as part of that?
Yes, sir. The doctor who completed the psychiatric evaluation did have recommendations that do fall into a place, I would say, with the other recommendations in her services that we've asked. This does include a OSAR evaluation, which she has done. He did recommend one-to-one counseling. He recommended random drug screening, family counseling, and should she experience any mood symptoms for suicidal or homicidal ideations, he recommended that she be referred to emergency services for evaluating, such as our mental health authority, the Gulf Bend Center.
All right. And then what about for Frederick Alcantar? How is he doing in his services?
Frederick, I would say, from my opinion, is doing well. He is engaging in counseling with Dusty Moultrie, and he is also engaging in, I would say, family counseling with her oldest daughter, Astrid. So I would say Frederick is doing well. He is doing his part. He continues to also follow the safety plan and complete all his roles and responsibilities that are required within the safety plan.
Okay. And so for him, has he also completed a psychiatric evaluation?
No, he has not.
Was that being requested?
Mental health evaluation was requested, not a psychiatric.
Okay. Has that been completed?
I don't believe so.
Okay. But you believe he's currently on he's making good progress towards completing his services at this time?
Yes, sir. I do feel that he is. Whenever speaking to him, he is very engaged in counseling. He finds it beneficial. And I do feel he is doing his part in the case. Yes, sir.
Okay. And so do you believe that the parents are going to need more time to continue to work on their services?
Yes, sir. I do feel that that would be beneficial to the family, as Ms. Lopez has not begun to do her one-on-one counseling. As Dusty may have mentioned before, we are recommending for the parents to engage in parents as teachers. We feel that this may be more suitable and appropriate for the parents moving forward.
Okay. And so the current case, do you recall when was this when did this case originally get filed?
So we did receive this case. I received this on my workload on November the 8th.
Okay. So it looks like we probably have a little bit more time before this would truly need to be extended at this, but are we wanting to go ahead and get that extended at this time, despite still having a little bit more time before we would need to make a decision on that?
Yes, sir. I do feel that that would be appropriate. Ms. Samantha Lopez did inform me last time I spoke to her that she wants to engage in one-on-one counseling and wants to continue to be involved in services. So I do feel that extended amount of time would be appropriate, especially because she just completed her OSAR last week, and she was also recommended for substance use services through that.
Okay, so does she have is she for the OSAR? What were their recommendations from the OSAR assessment?
Yes, her recommendations were to engage in one on like group meetings at least once a week for those for her substance use. So that was recommended by Tammy Hogan, who completed the OSAR.
Okay. Let's see here. All right, so I'm gonna pass witness.
Mr. Kadmar,
No questions.
Ms. Mahachek.
Ms. Diaz de Leon, I just have a few questions for you. How long is the extension that you're requesting? How many months is it?
I would say 2 more months, just so Ms. Lopez can get properly engaged in services. She has completed the intake for her services, but I would say 2 more months would be suitable so she can properly get engaged.
And then earlier you had said that the psychiatric or psychological had recommended that Mrs. Lopez, engage in family counseling. Are y'all requiring family counseling as well as the individual counseling?
Being that is a recommendation that came from the doctor who completed her psychiatric evaluation, I would support his recommendation. Yes.
Okay, so she needs to do individual counseling plus the family counseling, like with the children and Mr. Alcantor?
Yes, ma'am, I would say so. Parents as teachers would assist with that to make sure that they are working with both the children and the parents.
Okay, I just wanted to be clear because I guess earlier when we heard testimony, that was dealing with just not one-on-one counseling. So we need one-on-one counseling plus the family counseling. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am, that is correct.
Okay. Okay, no further questions. Thank you.
Mr. Hill.
Your Honor.
Okay, so Ms. Diaz de Leon, tell me what the current safety plan is.
Yes, sir. The current safety plan, which we just updated on the 5th of this month, is for Ms. Lopez to continue being supervised at all times with all 3 of her children by either Mr. Frederick Alcantar or maternal grandmother Deborah Lopez.
And that seems to be working out at this point?
Yes, sir. At this time, it is.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Hill, do you have a report and recommendations for the court today?
Yes, Your Honor. Everything in this case seems to be going okay. There's been no other incidents that have occurred to my knowledge. Things have stabilized in this matter. I would only ask that the court, adopt and order the recommendations of the department going forward in this case.
Okay, so I was just looking back during some of the testimony. So this case is under Family Code Section 264-203, and the court entered an order for court order services, approximately around November 18th. So our current dismissal date for the court order services case is not until May 18th. So we can just come back either once or twice, potentially between now and then, without having to grant an extension today, potentially. So, Ms. Mahachek, I'm not going to be granting an extension because we have plenty of time to come back and check on the parents' progress. Obviously, I could do that at a future hearing date, but that's probably not going to occur today. So any witnesses you had wanted to call today, Ms. Mahachek?
No, sir.
Okay, anything on behalf of your client?
No, sir.
Mr. Kadmar?
Same announcement.
And Mr. Best, anything else from the department today?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, so based upon the testimony of the witnesses, court finds that both parents are in partial compliance with their court-ordered plans of service. Mr. Alcantar, sounds like you're doing fairly well and engaged in therapy, Ms. Lopez. There's going to be a slight change to your court-ordered services, but I think this will be more well-suited to help you out so that at some point we can get the court and the Department of Family and Protective Services out of your family's life and allow y'all to have your children and be successful. The court does continue the current safety plan in this case. We're going to come back on March 19th, 2024 at 4 p.m. Yeah, March 19th, 2024 at 4 p.m. So that's about 2 months from now. Hopefully we'll see some good progress from the parents between now and then. It's not my goal in this case to grant an extension if we don't have to. Ms. Moultrie, do you have a question?
Well, I just kind of had a statement. So my services would end today because the family does not meet the model that I have to use, the brief strategic model that I have to use. So the BSFT portion would end and they would go into the parents' teachers portion. I just wanted to make sure that everybody kind of understood why that was happening.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Moultrie. So that's what I'm saying. There'll be a change in services. So Ms. Lopez will engage in the parents as teachers portion of the model at this time instead of the brief strategic family therapy. Okay, any other questions about today's orders or anything else that we need to address before we finish for the day?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you everybody for being here today. Mr. Alcantar, Ms. Lopez, please continue to work hard in this case. And obviously stay warm. It looks like you are all bundled up in the car. So thank you for appearing today. I know the weather's kind of tough out there today, but thanks for being here today. Keep working hard. And we'll see y'all back. Let me get that date again. On March 19th at 4 p.m. Everybody's excused at that time. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hey, Bertha, is tomorrow we have in-person